Chris Shelton is wonderful. Go watch more Chris Shelton stuff. Here's something I feel really stupid for not realizing a very long time ago, and the more I think about it, the worse it gets. If Lucifer was able to incite a rebellion in heaven, that means jealousy, envy, deception, and violence exist there despite the promise of a perfect paradise. Okay. There's this thing, right? There's this thing called time. Did you know it exists? I don't know. Alright, so I had responded to this, but my response is not important. What's important to this or here is this fucking guy. I have no idea who this is, but apparently there's somebody who calls out, like, abuse in, like, Scientology or something. Yeah, this is good Chris, not bad Chris. We already talked about bad Chris. This is good Chris. Ever hear of free will, Chris? So I've heard multiple things, and you guys can correct me. What do you guys think? Did angels in the Bible have free will or not? Like, does the Bible say that they have free will, or was free will exclusive to humans? Like, because I've heard multiple, like, I've heard variations of this, right? Were angels supposed to have free will or not? I thought they weren't supposed to have free will. That was what I was taught in church, but other churches are different, so I don't know. Is it like common that angels actually did have free will? I thought they weren't supposed to. Fuck do I know? Angels specifically don't have free will. They are servants of God, and Lucifer questioned God because he is a different creature. So, wait, so Lucifer's not an angel? I don't think that's the case. Pretty sure. Like, this is Christianity, right? This is, like, specifically talking about Christianity. So I don't know if it's different for Muslims. But as far as I knew, Lucifer Morningstar was an archangel at the left hand of or right hand of God who was replaced by Michael. Anyway, this guy gets me. Ever hear of free will, Chris? We all have it, including Lucifer. I mean, that's news to me. He made his choice and was cast out of heaven. If you do not believe in God and have no faith, then why are you spending so much time denigrating him? Capital him. Yeah, he's a fallen angel in Christianity, right? Therefore an angel, right? Why so threatened by my beliefs? This dude took this fucking personally. Discussions on theology and how, like, heaven functions are not uncommon in theology or within religious circles, right? So these kinds of things get questioned all the time and talked about all the time. This guy took this really fucking personally. Chris kind of went off on him a little. Your beliefs don't threaten me. I think you are taking my post way too personally. Mm-hmm. None of them apply to you. I am pointing out hypocrisies in behavior that are justified by religious belief. Given what you do against Scientology, I know you understand this concept, right? We are both critical of the abuse of the nature of Scientologists. I am also critical of the abusive nature of some Christians. If you don't think there is any abuse, you're wrong. Scientologists justify their abuse with their hypocritical beliefs. So do some Christians. And so Chris goes, like, very much out of his way in to say that he's not talking about Christianity on a whole or every Christian out there. He's just talking about there are scenarios in which it's problematic. I just want to look at chat real quick. It makes no sense in Christianity because angels have no free will and he would never question God in the first place. Yeah, exactly. I often feel gross when reading somebody spelling it him. It's like it's already going to be a bad time. Yeah, you're right. There are no contradictions in the Bible, yeah. You are not someone I see doing that, at least not here, so you're not someone I have an issue with. You are not an abusive personality or a predator. Some Christians are, and they use sanctimonious words and righteous morality to condemn the entire existence of other people. The fact. That is a thing that happens. That doesn't need to happen. Right? You can be a Christian and not be a dick to people. Amazing, right? Epiphanies all over the place. My posts point out these hypocrisies. What kind of bothers me is that you can't see this. You know who I am and what I'm about. I'm not some rando hater, but I'm not afraid of your God or your religion or your beliefs. I fight hypocrisy and abuse. We are on the same side. This guy comes back with this. I just laughed. I literally just said, LOL, bro. Chris, I agree with the fact that there is abuse in every facet of life. I think he means there can be abuse in any facet of life, but whatever. I'm not going to nitpick his language. What bothers me is that you make these blanket posts that are offensive to those of us who truly believe in and love God. Questioning a contradiction in your theology isn't a blanket statement. It's questioning something specific, right? Like, in the average theology, from my understanding of Christianity, and again, maybe I'm wrong, and I'm sure there are different Christians that follow different things, and there's going to be changes here and there, and justifications one way or justifications another way. You notice that this guy doesn't give any of those justifications. He's just mad about it. This dude is the walking, I'm mad that you asked a question. And this is one of the things that drives people away from the church, right? Somebody asked a question and you're like, you're offending me for asking the question. Or you're a problem for asking the question. You get treated like an asshole and an outsider for being like, hey, these two things don't make sense. And instead of being like, oh, well, here's an answer, or hey, that's a good question, you should talk to this thing or go look at this thing, it's, you're offending me for asking this question. Or just saying, actually, you know what? I don't know. I don't have that information. Okay, that's acceptable. All of those things are allowed. Angels are spiritual beings who have personalities that include emotions. Luke 2:13-14. Intelligence. Corinthians. And will. 2 Timothy. Satan was an angel who cast out of heaven along with many other angels who decided to follow him and chose sin. Yes. For some of the angels exercised their free will to rebel against God. They could have been in a sort of probation period similar to Adam and Eve. Oh yeah, that would be a way to interpret it for sure. These are certainly like, the Bible is, yeah. Before some of the angels exercised their free will to rebel against God, they could have been in a sort of probation period similar to Adam and Eve's time in the garden. Those angels who did not choose to sin and follow Satan have become the elect angels, confirmed in holiness. These angels are also referred to as holy angels in Mark and holy ones in Psalms. Yeah, there's definitely options, right? There's definitely about how you want to interpret the angels and what they do and how they operate and how, like, there are different interpretations. However, if Lucifer was able to incite a rebellion in heaven, that means jealousy, envy, deception, and violence exist there despite the promise of a perfect paradise. So there is the free will question about angels, right? But there's also the question of, how do you have a rebellion in a perfect place? So angels have free will, but if they use it, they're bad. Oh, sure. Yeah, why not? I don't know. I the thing is like, every denomination is going to have a different interpretation, but it doesn't address the question that's actually being asked here. How do you have a rebellion in a perfect place? If it's supposed to be perfect, what's there to rebel against? Why didn't Jesus' sacrifice redeem the angels? Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so this guy is like, I agree with it, blah, 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 blah. What bothers me is that you making these blanket posts are offensive to us who truly believe in and love God. So, no true Scotsman, like, only they get to decide who's a real Christian and who is. And obviously, a real Christian couldn't ask these difficult theological questions, right? Because that's what that is. That is a difficult theological question that may not have an answer, right? We might not know the answer. Maybe because God hasn't let us know that information, or doesn't care to let us know that information, or that information is relevant, or yada yada yada. You come up with a bajillion reasons. You don't qualify them. There are bad people who are doctors. Is medicine all bad? Nobody said that all Christianity is bad. Nobody even said that all religion is bad. I'm personally not a big fan of religion as like an organization, right? As a personal beliefs, sure, personal practices, sure, don't usually have a problem with that. I'm not a big fan of dogma, and I'm not a big fan of like particularly the way Catholicism is set up, because it's too easy. It enables predators of all varieties too easily. Same with like televangelists. It's all fucking scammy bullshit, and you just kind of set people up for failure. And I think like a good church wouldn't do that to people. Right? A good church wouldn't be taking advantage of people. A good church would be doing thorough background checks and would be wanting to help people, etc., 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 which most religious churches profess to do, and a lot don't follow through on. That doesn't mean get rid of all Christianity. That doesn't mean get rid of all religion. It means that you can fucking make changes and be criticized in a way that would allow you to make changes to make things better for everybody involved. Or you can have a complex question about the theology, right? Which is what Chris is presenting. He's presenting like this how these two things are contradictory and or hypocritical and don't fucking make any sense. And so if they don't make sense, why not? And what's the explanation for it? Right? Now maybe Chris is being tongue in cheek. Maybe he's being like, you don't actually have an answer. Right? But the way to deal with that is to have an answer, right? Or say, hey, you know what? We don't know. Which deflates the thing. I expose Scientology's abuse and lies as a whole. Hubbard's doctrine is flawed. It is policy to hurt people. That is not Christian doctrine. Oh yeah. There's nothing in the Bible that's abusive towards specific groups of people, like women. Oh, they're not hypocritical. You just need to watch 1,000 hours of the Bible. You clearly haven't seen enough Bible. Obviously. The abusive people who hide behind their version of Christian morality are not following Christ's teachings. Scientologists who abuse are. Like, as in Scientologists who abuse are following the doctrine, allowing them and enabling them with the intention of being abusive. Whereas Christianity is not about being abusive. Christianity is absolutely about being abusive. Absolutely. At least Christianity as it is right now. There's way too much in the Bible that is specifically against groups of people and specifically calling for the dehumanizing of specific groups of people and mutilation of groups of people. Circumcision is horrendous. Um, all kinds of stuff like that, and like it's all over the Bible. It's not new information, right? And like this shit is in the New Testament as well as the Old Testament. There's nothing in the New Testament that negates the Old Testament as much as people like to pretend it does. It doesn't. It does not. I'm not here to break the old covenant, but I'm here to give you some new rules. Yada 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 fucking yada. Your posts come across as a condemnation of Christianity. It's a question about the theology, my guy. It's not a question that maybe other posts, maybe this was just the one that broke the fucking camel's back here. But this post isn't talking about Christians, the people. This post is asking theological questions about whether or not the continuity of Christianity makes any fucking sense or has contradictions in it. And we know the Bible has contradictions. Your posts come across as a condemnation of Christianity, almost as proof that you are right in the belief there is no God. I mean, generally people think that their beliefs are correct. That's why they're beliefs. It's a Truly Puffs in the chat. Hell yeah. You can hate the sin but still love the sinner, so to speak. Prove it. Show me how you separate those things. Because as far as I know, you can only do that if they don't do the sin continuously. So if the sin is being gay, you don't stop being gay. So what? You're not a sinner is you can be gay but you're not allowed to fuck? As long as you don't fuck, you're good? What about sex outside of marriage? If I never get married but have sex, I'm never not sinning. Whether I go to church or not. What about porn? What about like a bajillion other things? Because like I mean we did cover masturbation and turns out Bible didn't give a fuck. Bible didn't say dick shit about masturbation. Do you want to tell me whether or not people use Christianity to I should ask this guy what he thinks about masturbation. I condemn this person, but his evil doesn't mean there is no God. And how did this man just make the jump to the problem of evil? My guy is jumping through hoops because somebody asked a complicated theological question. Dude, guy, buddy, pal, bro. I almost want to respond to this person, but I really don't know. There's so much to unpack here. Yeah, the abusive people who hide behind their version of Christianity, of Christian morality, are not following Christ's teachings. What are you talking about? Leviticus, Exodus, Leviticus, Zechariah, Leviticus, Ezekiel, Samuel, Romans, Deuteronomy, Isaiah, Chronicles, Leviticus, Exodus, Deuteronomy, Exodus. MK is Mark? Numbers, Deuteronomy, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, Numbers, Exodus, and Deuteronomy, and Leviticus. So the thing is that I would agree that the majority of like the problematic shit in the Bible is in the Old Testament. Right? I think we can all agree with the majority of like the direct, really problematic language, right? Because not all of like it's not like the New Testament doesn't have problems. It's not like the New Testament doesn't have like issues when it comes to it's a demon, not a mental illness. Or people interpreting it that way to say that people who have mental illnesses are actually demons. Um, but I think we can agree most of the go kill a person or this group of people tends to exist within the Old Testament, but Christianity brings the Old Testament along with the New Testament, right? And they cherry pick and pick out what things they want to, about what's convenient for them. Or they'll say, okay, well, that we take it with us, but it doesn't count. There's nothing in the New Testament that discounts the Old Testament. It doesn't say, hey, all those things, forget them. That's not in there. It doesn't say that. Funny, you are question. Funny you are quoting each of those things from the Old Testament, not Mark. I think MK is Mark, which is kill disobedient children. Let's just double check. Let's just double check. Mark 7:10. Mark 7:10 Bible. I don't want to know what it means. I just want to see what it says. Oh, look at that. For Moses said. So, for Moses said, honor your father and mother, and anyone who curses their father or mother is to be put to death. Let's read the full chapter. So, what was that? 7? Okay. So, Pharisees, teachers, blah, 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 blah. So, Pharisees and the teachers of the law asked Jesus, quote, why don't your disciples live according to the traditions of the elders instead of eating their food with defiled hands? Jesus replied, quote, Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you hypocrites, as is written. There are people, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. Their teachings are merely human rules. You have to let go of the commands of God and are holding on to human. Oh, you have let go of the commands of God and are holding on to human traditions. Okay. And he continued, quote, you have a fine way of setting aside the commands of God in order to observe your own traditions. For Moses said, honor your father and mother, and anyone who curses their father or mother is to be put to death. But you say that if anyone declares that what might have been used to help their father or mother is Corban, that is devoted to God, then you no longer let them do anything for their father and mother. Thus, you nullify the word of God by your tradition that you have handed down, and you have many things like that. So there is Jesus right there in Mark saying, you're not following the Old Testament. You're making excuses and cherry picking the Old Testament to do what you want in the first place. So no, if you were following proper Christian traditions and you were actually following the Word of God, you would be attempting to follow the Old Testament as is written to the best of your ability. I don't advocate for that, by the way. I don't think that's a good way to live your life, but, you know... And now I have my answer about what I'm going to respond to this guy with. I don't think you read this right. I don't think... think you missed the bit from Mark 7:10. Here is a convenient link for you to follow up. In this, Jesus says that people are cherry picking and ignoring parts of the Old Testament to live how they want instead of by God's word, kind of like you in this thread. Wah, 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 wah. I'm gonna take the word think out so it all fits. There. Ta-da! This is how we do. This is how we do. This is how we do. Because I looked at what it said, I went to the reference, looked at the quote, then went to the full passage to make sure that it wasn't out of context. Right? Right? That's what we did? That's what we did. We did that thing. I don't fuck around, man. I don't know. Yeah, if you also read the New Testament, you would see that Jesus commanded us to love one another and turn the other cheek. It's easy to copy and paste. How about you read the Sermon on the Mount for starters? Jesus said you're pushing the Old Testament. Love one another within what context? Right? There's context to all of this stuff. And, like, I don't... If you take Jesus' teachings in a bubble, you can have them mean whatever the fuck you want. But they don't exist in a bubble. They exist within the context of the Old Testament, which is what Jesus was saying in Mark. What we just fucking read. Yeah, he's cherry picking and then says everything is out of context, right? The Lord made a new covenant with us. It washes out the Old Testament. No, it fucking didn't. Where? Where did it fucking wash away the Old Testament? That never happened. That is that never happened. Oh, follow up with a clip. Oh, you clipped it. Oh, thanks. I will add a clip. I will just go down here and just be like, here's a clip. Here is a quick clip explaining. You're so welcome. I'm not a biblical history scholar, right? Like, I'm not a big brained person. I don't have a whole ton of education. By that I mean I dropped out of university and college. I'm not good with the school thing. People should go to school and do better than I have done in my life. But I am not. I'm not stupid. Also, doing some more digging, and apparently I was right. Angels have free will, basically to suck God's shaft, and the free will is for that purpose only, and using it for anything else is a sin. Oh boy. I'm not dumb. I'm not dumb. I'm just not well educated. But like I'm not I am like bottom rung. And if I am bottom rung and can figure this shit the fuck out, I feel like maybe this person should be able to figure it out. Jesus didn't say that, so Christians don't follow the Old Testament as the Word of God. I found that the only way you can remain a Christian is to see what you want to see and blind yourself to the rest. Sorry for butting in here. I just couldn't take it anymore. Fair enough. The Old Testament is the Word of God. Jesus came and fulfilled the prophecies of the Old Testament and gave us a new law of love. It fulfills the Old Testament. Matthew. Okay, let's look at this. They brought up Matthew. Let's look up Matthew. Boom. Let's pull it up. Oh my god, why did it give me everything? I just want Matthew. Okay. Eye for an eye. That's where we're gonna start with eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And that Jesus came to bring war to make mothers and daughters fight and shit. That he wasn't coming for peace. Like, this guy just ignored what Jesus said left, right, and center? Okay, so let's see. This is 5:38 to 48. You have heard it was said, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, but I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, then turn the other cheek. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, and one word that you can replace with the word shit in the Bible. uh, Hand over your coat as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. Love your enemies. You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children in your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on to the righteous and the unrighteous. That's basically like saying let God sort them out. And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Do not even pagans do that? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. Okay, so let's read the full chapter. Now Jesus saw the crowds, blah 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 blah. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for the kingdom oh right, this is the hey, people who are poor get to go to heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So all the people that Christians are persecuting are going to be the ones who get the charge of heaven, I guess. They don't tell you that Kevin Heaven has a cover charge at the gate, a whole tree fitty. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil things against you because of me. Oh, only if it's because of Jesus, though. If we're saying, like, bullshit against you because we don't like you alone, get fucked. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they are persecuted the prophets who were before you. Fulfillment of the law, murder. You've heard it said that to the people long ago, you shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, whatever the fuck that means, is answerable in court, and anyone who says you fool will be in danger of the fire of hells. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar and remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled with them, then come and offer your gift. Does reconciled means like make good, or is this like go kill them? Because, I mean, that could be reconciliation. Lucifer, am I a joke to you? I just the way this interprets, right? If Jesus says, "You have heard that it was said that people long ago you shall not murder, and anyone who murders shall be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry, anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment." So, like, just being pissy, right? Like, what? Settle matters quickly with your adversary who is taking you to court. Do it while you are still together on the way, or your adversary may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. Truly, I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny. The fuck? Divorce. It has been said anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce, but I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, makes her the victim of adultery, and anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. This is Jesus. This is Jesus. Just fuck women. Again, you have heard it said to people long ago, "Do not break your oath, but fulfill to the Lord the vow you have made." But I tell you, do not swear an oath at all, either by heaven, or if it is by or for it is God's throne, or by the earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make even one hair white or black. All you need is to say is simply yes or no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. Don't make promises. Deuteronomy 22, 28 to 29. If a man happens to meet a virgin who is not pledged to be married and rapes her, and they are discovered, he shall pay her father 50 shekels of silver. He must marry the young woman, for he has violated her. He can never divorce her as long as he lives. Yup, this is definitely not Jesus saying anything against that. Fulfilling those things. He's just adding a caveat. This whole thing is just Jesus adding caveats. So, are we gonna sass this man? So, reading through this whole thing is just Jesus adding caveats, not undoing anything to do with the Old Testament. Testament. I don't know how to spell caveats. There we go, caveat. Right? Right? Right, like the divorce thing, for example. Handful of shekels, my guys. Handful of shekels. So speaking of like religious fanatics, let's move away from this nonsense. This is way deeper into the Bible that I intended in going today. And like, again, if you were to take the things that Jesus was saying on the Sermon on the Mount in a bubble, still not great. Infidelity being the only adultery on the woman's side is the only way to divorce somebody. Not good. Not a great take. Not good for women. Oh, surprise, surprise.